All right, welcome everyone to our session, Preparedness in Your Pocket, Developing Apps for Disaster Awareness. I'm Hamilton Bean, I'm a professor of communication at the University of Colorado, Denver. I'll be the moderator for this session. Just as a reminder of the description, in an era where many people have a smartphone close at hand, mobile apps can help community members engage, communicate, and gather relevant information for disaster preparedness and awareness. In this session, panelists will explore processes for developing and testing disaster apps and discuss how they're used to help people get ready and act when hazards occur. So I'm going to ask the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into our first question. We have about 4 questions, and then we're going to take have audience questions and participation. So let me turn it over to Zuben to introduce himself.
This works. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Zuben Bastani. I'm the founder and president of ReachWell. I spent most of my career in mobile technology. I'm a Midwesterner by birth, first gen from India, and kind of come from a family of experienced a lot of migration, so refugees in my family, and that's driven me to build a tool that is accessible and inclusive for everyone. And like I mentioned, started in mobile technology and loved it, loved the access it gave people, regardless of their income or their technical abilities. And went through personal experiences through my kids' school is where it really began, where many of our lower income and migrant friends were disconnected from information and communication. It presented an opportunity that there had to be a better way to get and connect people. And so that was the foundation of ReachWell, and that led me to the path here today with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Sumy. I am a program director at the National Science Foundation. I work in the Technology Innovation and Partnerships Directorate. The TIP Directorate came out of the Chips and Science Act of 2022. I represent key technology area number 5 as identified in the Act around disaster prevention and mitigation. What I'll be chatting about today really reflects the 4 years that I was able to spend under an Intergovernmental Personnel Act work experience with the U.S. Geological Survey, working on their Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning System. So I'm really grateful for the USGS for funding a lot of this research. It didn't come from NSF, I'm not double dipping. But as feds, I just wanted to say, I'm gonna give the disclaimer, any opinions, findings, conclusions, recommendations expressed in what I have to say today are mine and do not necessarily reflect that of the NSF or the U.S. Geological Survey. So thanks.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Ginny, Katz, CEO and founder of HazAdapt. We create community resilience tools, and HazAdapt got started because my background is all in disaster management and hazards and understanding how we communicate and use technology to communicate. And I was actually trained to become an emergency manager when I saw, you know what, we're doing all these engagement events and not a lot of people are coming. And we don't really have a lot of resources to reach everyone in the community. And I thought that was crazy. We have Facebook and we've got Instagram, but we don't have a platform that helps us support bottom-up resilience and helps that engagement between the public and authority. And so that question of how do we create a platform that supports community resilience and helps people receive or orient their information to their need took them to a PhD at Oregon State University, and that question became my PhD program, and we created an app with other grad students with their Oregon State University incubator, and now we are all no longer students. We're actually a technology company serving Europe and also in the App Store, but we are really focused on supporting bottom up and then offering that engagement space between the public and authority, and I'll tell you more about the app in a minute.
Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Bubel. I'm from the American Red Cross. I joined the American Red Cross in 2015 in the community preparedness team. In May 2022, we launched the emergency app, which aims to help people before, during, and after a disaster by providing access to information. Before working at the Red Cross, I worked in community development overseas in Cambodia, East Timor, mainland China, and Indonesia after the 2004 earthquake. I'm also a certified project management professional, which really helps me with this app. but it is a privilege and pleasure to be here today. This is my first experience at this conference, and so I'm just, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much. So our first question is, we want to hear about the app that you're sharing today. So what are its main functions, its features, and its benefits? And we're going to have about 5 minutes for each of the panelists, and we're going to start again with Zuben.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this was really built out of need when we learned that so many of the families at my kids' school were completely disconnected. So where this really began was, first of all, understanding that this isn't just a connection with the school, this is a connection with a whole ecosystem of support partners. So ReachWell works with nonprofits, we work with government agencies like Human Services, Workforce Development, and affordable housing providers as well as emergency management. So what we have been built is a community ecosystem where vulnerable, disadvantaged families can go to connect with all of their providers to keep them educated, supported, and protected. So with ReachWell, went through our research early on, we identified that there are really 5 key factors that we could address in helping increase accessibility and inclusivity. The first one has to do with just distrust in our existing systems. So families don't want to provide their personal contact information. Unregistered residents or undocumented don't want to share their location. So we needed to build a system that doesn't require that. Secondly is the income challenges. So as you look at lower income populations, their phone numbers change all the time. Usually the average Latina female about 2.6 times a year between the ages of 26 and 34. So the second you go through all the work to get somebody to opt into some sort of texting system, now you gotta go chase them down again. No, that's not gonna happen. Plus, this is their internet, right? Not this laptop. Their internet is their computer, is their phone, not their computer. So making sure that it was mobile first was really important to us. We also wanted to build a system and tool that would allow the user to choose their own language, not guessing what census information may be available that is going to guide us in these educated census-based decisions. No offense to anybody representing the census here, but we just know that data is so hard to get. Technology, right? That low income elderly population is also going to be technologically challenged. So making sure that they too have the ability to connect without providing usernames, passwords, sign up, email, that are going to drive people or prevent people from keeping and staying connected. And then lastly is literacy and disabilities too. So visually impaired, hearing impaired, and literacy in English or their native language. So that's what we set out to build. Now users can go and download this app. We can also believe in meeting them where they are, so doing translated emails, text, phone calls as well. And then we work with the emergency agencies in connecting to the emergency notification systems like Everbridge and Code Red and Rave and all those types of tools, even iPause, to be able to grab those messages and deliver them in a wide area network. So rather than pinpointing the location, because again, we're not asking people for their exact location because they're not going to provide it, we're going to deliver this message in a wide area network that's typically county-wide. So as you subscribe, you choose your county, and maybe you're subscribed to a school, or maybe you're subscribed to the Immigrant Refugee Center, or through your affordable housing partner. Regardless of how you're connecting in your county, you're going to get those emergency alerts. So that was kind of the premise of us building the alerting system. Again, if you were in the previous session, you heard a lot from this expert panel talking about how the turnover challenges in a dispatch center and changes into an operating procedure are so difficult to make. So building it so that it just immediately plugs in without having to make any changes to the system was one of the critical factors when we were adopted soon after the Marshall Fire here in Boulder County. I don't know, 2.5 years ago. And so in addition to the emergency alerts, ReachWell's also built in a little resource hub, so that way users can go there and get connected to preparation resources, disaster recovery resources, connecting families with their BOAD partners, in the case that they need additional supports that the agency is unable to provide. So much more to go on. I'm going to cut myself off there because there's so much good stuff coming.
Self-discipline, thank you, Zuben.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really pleased today to be able to represent the San Diego County Office of Emergency Services and the work that they've been doing on their San Diego Emergency app. The app came about through an act of county legislation, so it does demonstrate how, when legislators decide to do something, and then the county needs to respond to that, that they can really come through. The last I checked with my colleagues at the Office of Emergency Services, they have spent around $700,000 into this app from the county. SD Emergency stands for San Diego Emergency, I know no acronyms. Started in 2014. It is a multi-hazards app, mainly because they deal with a lot of very, very different hazards. In fact, they had a presidentially declared disaster earlier this year due to flooding-related issues. From the work that we've been able to see, looking at all of their alerts, wildfire is their most common alerting. Over half of the alerts are sent due to fire, whether that is shelters or evacuation or just sending information about fire. San Diego sends an alert when there's any threat to human life, when it's directed by county leadership, and also simply when there could be media interest in a particular topic, then an alert is sent, and it has to be confirmed. For instance, for an evacuation order, it needs to be confirmed by the sheriff's office. I have looked through their SOP for when they make their decisions, standard operational procedure for threats and when they make their decision to alert. And so, of course, fire is their most common one. As Zuben mentioned, like Everbridge, they use Genesis Protect. And what we did as researchers is, I didn't know a lot about San Diego County when I started this research. I live in Washington, D.C. to work for NSF. But San Diego is a very, very spacious county. When people think San Diego County, they just think the city of San Diego. But in fact, they serve 28 different cities. Also, it can be very urban, like the city itself, and it can also be very rural. They butt up against a national forest, and there are some very off-the-grid types that want to live in this area. It's also a border county with Mexico, so with Zuben talking a lot about refugees, there's a large refugee population in San Diego County. One of the things that we decided to do was approach San Diego County and ask them, what do you want to know about your app? What are the kinds of data that you want to know more about? And they informed us. And I think as researchers, we really need to be thoughtful about the folks who are designing apps and putting together apps to really ask them, what do you want to know as a county? What is going to be most informational? And I'm so excited about question number 2 about ethical issues because that's actually where it stemmed from. They wanted to know, are we reaching our people? Who are we reaching? What are the languages that they speak? Are we unintentionally missing people? There are 3 main components of SD Emergency, Ready San Diego, and Emergency and Recovery. This provides anywhere for information before, during, and after a potential disaster. What I'm really proud of, because I'm a seismologist by training, is that, and after working with Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning System, which is operational for California, Oregon, and Washington, I don't know if this was you, Bob, but SD Emergency also sends Shake Alert powered alerts for the entirety of California. So it's not just for San Diego County. So if your location is not inside the county for right now, you will be able to receive an alert using your SD Emergency app. And that's because a lot of people live and work, in different counties, right? And so having an app that works for all of California when it comes to earthquake early warning is super important. Also, one thing that I really like about their app is that with the recovery portion, they address local resources. to help people find local resource centers, very similar to the FEMA disaster recovery centers. And they have educational materials about how to use post-disaster resources, like how you can do mold remediation or other factors that that individuals and communities may be affected by. And again, there's so much more to talk about, but I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Awesome. So, HazAdapt is a humanity-friendly information engagement platform. And what it acts like is a hazard helper in your hand. So if you haven't downloaded, go download it. You're going to see what it looks like. But in the realm of emergency technology, we normally think of very top-down technologies like alerts. But this is an app that is meant to help you, the individual, and those around you prepare, respond, and recover from both natural, human, and social hazards. And our app, what you'll see, the main gem here is our hazard guide. And this is a massive library of 49 hazard guides with all of that prep, response, and recovery information in there, and all available. And within that, it's part of our life-saving features set. So we have the hazard guide. We also have crisis support options, which is a massive contact list of both local and national resources that you can customize to your need and situation. The other major feature within HazAdapt are prep checks. And per hazard in HazAdapt, we can ask 3 questions. Do you know what to do? Practice putting the actions in order. Do you have all the tools and resources you need for this emergency? Select all that apply. And then the final one, which is the juicy question, who do you feel most comfortable calling in this event? Not who is the right entity, but who would you actually use? Because even if you have the best 911 response system, if you don't trust them, you won't call them. So we help measure coping capacity through prep checks. And we are then able to give people a readout on, all right, for a wildfire, your coping capacity, your preparedness is low, intermediate, or high. And so we can then continue to help support them as they're starting their preparedness journey. But the other main feature that helps support bottom-up resilience is what we call local safety information. And this is actually connection to local emergency management and other public safety and even public health resources. When you have HazAdapt on your phone or any device and you walk into a geolocated area that has local safety information, it'll automatically upload to your HazAdapt and it'll be translated into one of the 7 languages at your preference. And that way, if you are in a new space and something happens, you actually already have that local safety information procedures available on your phone. So it's really great also for those unspoken volunteers, and CERT programs to have that additional aspect in a disaster of what are the procedures or what are the local pieces of information. What you may also notice on HazAdapt is we have trending hazards. So you can see what hazards people are looking at all over the world and what's the top one. So for the majority of our years, active shooters almost always are number 1, but lately it's been extreme heat and flooding and hurricanes has been the top trending hazards. And for the public, HazAdapt is a great tool to keep on standby. For emergency authorities, it's an easily shareable resource that you can share with the public in a preparation sense, but then also HazAdapt is interoperable with all emergency alert systems. So each one of our hazard guides has a tiny link. You can add that tiny link to your alert, and when someone receives that alert, they click the link and they're immediately given a full guide of preparation, response, and recovery information with customizations that you can add in for kids, pets, farm animals, elderly, wildlife, and customize that information to include those intersectional assets. I'll pause there. There's only so much more.
Thank you so much. The emergency app is a free all-hazard app available in English and Spanish and designed with accessibility in mind that aims to empower a diverse public before, during, and after a disaster by providing access to information. We know the climate crisis is causing more extreme weather events. It's more important than ever to help people prepare. And so that's why we designed and launched the emergency app in May of 2022. We aim to serve our core audiences people disproportionately impacted by disasters, people with access and functional needs, including individuals with disabilities. We offer an accessible experience as we aim to achieve Web Content Accessibility 2.2 AA guidelines. We aim to serve people who speak Spanish. We have an easy-to-find language toggle, full weather alerts in Spanish and English, accompanied by just-in-time safety information. I'm blessed to work alongside two native speakers who are part of my team and who help course correct all the time. We aim to serve people with a low level of literacy. We provide actionable content written at a 6th to 7th grade reading level. Our aim is to transform highly technical preparedness content into easily digestible information that people can act on. We also explain why we are recommending certain actions, because it may not be intuitive for everybody. We found that to be very important. We aim to serve people with a low level of income. Our prep content is relevant and achievable for a diverse audience. We think everyone has the right to prepare. It shouldn't be expensive. Everyone can take action to keep themselves and their families safe. The emergency app helps you before, during, and after disaster. Before, we offer short guides to help you prepare for 13 hazards, help with making customized plans, and new this year are games to help you practice critical preparedness skills. During, you can receive NOAA, National Weather Service alerts, and U.S. Geological alerts for your home location, your live location, and 8 additional locations. You can customize how you receive those alerts. So if you want to receive them as a push notification to your device, you can. If you want to receive them just as in-app alert, you can. If you want to turn them off completely, you can. We offer free radar maps so people can keep up to date on storm and weather changes, and a hurricane tracker that I've been glued to the past week and a half as we were tracking Beryl. New this year, we also offer, you can monitor the EPA's air quality index for each location you monitor. After a disaster, if a disaster impacts your location, you can easily find open red car shelters and services available near you. Our app is in its infancy. We're always looking to improve. We've established partnerships with 4 national partners to help us improve and promote the app to their constituencies. We've established partnerships with NAACP, Hispanic Access Foundation, Climate Initiative, and the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. Thank you.
All right, we can actually read these out. So, thank you for the very helpful overviews. As Danielle alluded to, our next question is around ethics and app development. So we'd like each of the participants to respond to this one. How has the development of your app accounted for ethical issues and access and functional needs? In about 2 minutes for each participant.
I mentioned that we aim to achieve Web Content Accessibility 2.2 AA guidelines. We've embedded accessibility into all stages of the software development lifecycle, from plan, design, build, test, and maintain phases. We have embraced the shift left concept so that we can catch accessibility errors very early in design and course correct while we're still working on paper. This involves accessibility reviews of our wireframes. We conduct comprehensive accessibility assessments twice a year with a third party to gauge our conformance to standards and then take action to improve based on reports. We involve people with disabilities through inclusive design studies so we can understand their needs and preferences and make improvements to the app based on their feedback. Here's 2 ways we improve the app based on the direct feedback of our users with disabilities. We now display open red cross shelters in both list view and map view. As we learn from people who use screen readers, that screen readers have a difficulty with map interface only. They needed this information in list view, and now we provide it. In our preparedness section, we're in the process of switching out our stock images for customized digital illustrations as people with cognitive disabilities explained that they wanted to review the preparedness content, but their stock images that we were providing overwhelmed them, and they would prefer digital illustrations. So we just finished a project this year, actually on 1 week ago, and I'll be putting those in the app in the coming months. So very exciting.
So HazAdapt, as I alluded earlier, is humanity friendly, and this is a technical ethics standard that we have used since the beginning of HazAdapt, and it's ethics applied at every level of our building and in our company. And what that includes is humane technology, so we do not extort for attention, we do not sell your data, and we ensure that it is good. That is the standard that says, how do we do no harm before we try to do good? And we ask that with every feature all the time. We meet all accessible functional needs as you're actually using HazAdapt for disability, but then with all of our content, you can customize to have disability content available and accessible right there for your use. But not just content, resources, and connections to groups. One thing that we've done, and we do constantly, is we gender mag. And this is a feedback loop that we use at a very low-fi, high-fi, which those are low fidelity, high fidelity interfaces. And then again at beta. And it's a roundtable where we ensure that we're reviewing the technology. Is it usable for someone who has a lower cognitive state as they're trying to problem solve through an emergency, right? We don't think the same when we're under large stress. We don't think the same when it's our kid, right? So we have ensured that our design is conducive to that. On the realm of illustrations, all of our hazard guides have icons to help you recognize, is that what's happening out here? Is that happening in what I'm seeing here to help match what you're seeing? That's also helpful for English as a second language. And beyond just the inclusion and the functional design of it, what you'll see in our resources, especially in our recovery resources, are community-specific recovery links and groups that we ensure are in there, because not many hazards have a very significant community need in that recovery, especially human made hazards, right? We come together as a community to heal. And that leads into the other part of community friendly, is that we are community centered. Most tech is really based on me as an individual, but resilience is a team player sport, right? It's not a sport, it's an event that we all have to do. And so how can we bring people together safely, right? This is still a realm where we're seeing a lot of unethical practices happen in social apps, so we are extraordinarily careful to keep people safe. But it's not just between myself and my household, but myself and my community, myself and the authorities that are also serving the community. And so our app really centers around bringing people together and being part of something larger than yourself.
I'm really grateful again to my work with the U.S. Geological Survey on the Shape Alert Earthquake Early Warning System, and I think language equity. We have been really focused in working with San Diego County, and again, this came from them. They were like, we are a border county with Mexico, our app is only available in English and Spanish. We know we're missing people who speak other languages. And so we took the information that we had from San Diego County and the information of what we know that has been done for Shape Alert and saw what languages overlap. And we identified 6 languages that we had information from Shape Alert, logos and different things. Bob DeGroot, who's in the audience here, has done the lion's share of that work and has really done an incredible job of leading those efforts. I also wanted to say that through the app, alerts are made available through in American Sign Language to a collaboration with DeafLink. However, there is a delay for that. It can be anywhere up to a maximum of 15 minutes to have that. In some hazards, it's fine. In some hazards, like earthquakes, it's not. That is an alert that you really need to have in real time because there's only seconds to react and take the protective action of drop, cover, and hold on. And I think Michelle was in this room. Michelle Cook? Yeah, hi. I didn't see you. I saw you walk in. I didn't know where you sat. Michelle showed a poster yesterday about deaf and hard of hearing communities and really identifying a call to action for earthquake early warning, and it was led by her amazing research along with our colleagues at Gallaudet University. And I'm really grateful that San Diego County has also identified that. The alerts are also available in audio for those who might have visual impairments and blindness. So having both the DeafLink collab, the alerts available in audio, And we're really focused now on making sure that people of different language communities can have access to the app. One of the great partnerships we've made is with their Department of Health and Human Services that has a group called Partner Relay. And through Partner Relay, they've identified key language partners who operate like community organizations or leaderships within their language community who have been able to be accelerators of getting the app out there, making sure that people are aware of it. And so this was really something that, San Diego County wanted to know was how to reach a bigger swath of their population. And we've really identified that it's around language equity. Thanks.
So I'm noticing folks in the back are fanning themselves. I want to invite you. There is air conditioning up in the front. It feels good. I mean, you're suffering back there. I'm the moderator. I got to keep people safe. So you're welcome to come up here if you'd like. Okay, sorry, Zuben, go ahead.
I might put my jacket on. It's so cold up here. Yeah, thanks for the question. So we build and design ReachWell with access in mind and inclusivity in mind. So I like to think of our customers as our product developers. We talk to our customers all the time, and they are so vocal and verbal with us. We're based here in Denver, Colorado. So we're in Boulder County today. If you got to see Mike Shard up here a little bit ago, Boulder County is one of our partners. Just a couple days ago, we released a new function called Keyword Alerts following the fire over here by NCAR. I don't know if that's part of the reason it's kind of might be still smoky up here. Also might be the heat. But here in Boulder, this represents fairly urban population for us. So ReachWell is really designed to not only work in front range urban populations, but also rural areas as well. In rural areas, you have different political views too, right? So going back to the idea of maybe they're undocumented, they might be here in an urban area, but in the rural areas, you're gonna have people with high levels of government distrust as well. So again, not requiring people to provide that contact information, thinking access, inclusivity first, and getting the information out. And then if we need to narrow information down, we have other ways of doing so. Also, when we think about access, and we think about our lower income populations, I mentioned the phone numbers changing all the time. Another thing that was a really hard lesson learned, in case there's anybody out there that's about to build an app, or any of you guys have also dealt with this, is the support of old devices and old operating systems is extremely challenging to support. So we have to pay attention to that because that's who our subscribers are. So they're using ancient devices that have very low memory. I'm talking like, think 7-Eleven prepaid, right? These things will barely hold photos. So if you're asking somebody to download something, they're willing to delete 2 photos, but they won't delete 3. If you ask them, so keep that in mind. So you're talking about 20 megs of data that can be stored on the device. In addition, when we think about access, the elderly population, as well as it is a low-tech population that we need to make sure that we are doing a great job of supporting. So when we've gone out into the community through our network of community partners, going to that senior center, showing them, all right, how many steps is it gonna take for you to download and install this thing? If it's more than 3, you've lost them. So understanding download, add, follow, that's about the extent of what you can expect a low-tech elderly person to be able to commit to. And of course, we can't avoid the literacy challenge. So through the tool, there's some WCAG 2.0 is a requirement here in Colorado as of July 1, and federally it's going to become a requirement nationally by, I think it's like April 2026. You can look at the new ADA requirements, but these are the, so DOJ just passed that, so keep your eyes open on that. But and if you're building an app, you have time to be prepared for that. Just go straight there, don't even bother not addressing that. But we leverage text-to-speech within our messages to be able to support low literate families most of our messages in emergency are being generated through the ENS, through the emergency notification system. When users are utilizing, like civics, like cities, towns, centers are utilizing our platform to push messages out. Somebody mentioned like the reading level, which I thought is brilliant, right? Because oftentimes it's the child that might be reading the message to the adult, or that person may not have beyond a 3rd grade reading level. So we've got some tools built into our system to translate that down to a 3rd grade reading level, which also supports our translation engine too. So we support 135 languages, because we never know what language is out in your community. You can't census it right? You're never gonna know who's there today, who's gone today, who's there tomorrow. So giving the user the ability to choose their language, but then also reporting back to the agency that data. So we don't report back who they are, we don't not even report back where they are, but we do report back what languages your community is in need of receiving information on. And then that will help us drive a lot of that community engagement practices to go find the right community navigators. Promotora networks are very powerful to help getting that information out as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for that conundrum of being able to accurately reach multiple types of devices, oftentimes operating system updates will actually make that possible. And so, you know, I think that it is actually a responsibility of safety technology providers to not only, you know, if you're offering a native app, you know, which we do, you know, and it's offline available, that's great. You should also offer a web app so that people can go online and also access everything that you're offering. You may not be able to offer every single function, but being able to have that web version and make it ubiquitous across devices is so important.
Thank you, Ginny. Our next question kind of gets at these dynamics. It's about the marketplace. It's how should stakeholders view a diverse app marketplace, considering voices calling for more centralization and standardization of local emergency alerting? So we have about 2 minutes for this question. We're going to start with Danielle.
Yeah, of course I get start with one of the harder questions. I was thinking about what Michelle Wood said in panel earlier today, that people need information in different ways. They just need to hear the same information in all those different ways. So whether it's an app or the television or other forms of media or whatever the case may be, they just need to be hearing the same thing. Again, this is why I think from the San Diego County emergency side, I mean, they made legislative strides to develop an app that was going to deliver county authoritative alerts, right, that were specific to the county in which they live. And I think that that's a really powerful statement, that stakeholders should be interested in what the data source is. But I think from like a UX, UI, user experience, user interface perspective, that you know, that's okay. Like, I think it's okay to have multiple and different apps. I think it's just, they need to be saying the same thing and they need to be containing the same information. Where is that source of information coming from? Are they trusted sources of information? And I think that can be difficult to do. Also, when thinking about the response to this question, I was thinking about, you know, I work with the U.S. Geological Survey and how the USGS provides a message, but they're not a delivery person. They're not a delivery agency. They're not doing that step. So they're creating this message and they're dependent upon the FEMA IPAWS, I don't remember what IPAWS stands for, the Wireless Emergency Alert System, Integrated Public, I don't know. And we're reliant upon different app providers to be able to get to be those delivery partners to get the message out. I was also thinking about NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, through their National Weather Service. Being a part of the Department of Commerce, they have a functionality, a mission to be able to deliver the weather information, but then we all have like different weather apps and different things. I think there's an aspect, Ginny and I were talking earlier about making things in the economy and making it commercial, and there can be a drive for that. But I think as long as we're keeping the ethics at the front and we're doing things responsibly, then having different app providers is fine. I like different apps for different things. That's totally okay. But I think we need to be thoughtful about where the data is coming from and where that message is originating.
So these are two different markets, right? We've got our top-down alerting, and then we've got our mix of apps that are bottom-up, but then also have provider services, and there's drama in both. So in the alerting realm, there's a lot of talk about having a single source of alerting, right? And to that, I mean, good luck. There is so much contention between even just local and state authorities on if the state comes in and says, well, this is our new alerting app, you know, a lot of local guys will be like, no, we like what we've got. And you know, why people choose the tech that they choose, even if they have the absolute same functionalities, it could be a design difference. It could be the font style difference, right? People choose tech because of them and their own preferences. And when we think about the traditional tech mindset of the one app to rule them all, one, you know, that's not great for redundancy, you know, case, but also it's not realistic. We want people to prepare in layers, right? We want people to have multiple assets that actually serve them, rather than just having one single thing. So, you know, I'm definitely for multiple apps, and I think where the struggle is going to be seen is that a lot of really local, like city, county providers, they want to have their own app. And I get it, it's awesome to have that. But you're gonna have many people who will never see that as they are visitors to your area, or, you know, they have an assumption and they've been trained in the 911, you know, complex, where no matter where I go, I dial one number and I'm connected to the right place. So most people really aren't in that mindset of, I go to a new place, I download, you know, new app, I, you know, register for new alerts. And so that is a direct conflict into how people use technology. And what we see are these other companies that are white labeling the same app and putting it into every county. And then these emergency managers are paying $5,000 to $10,000 a year for an app that maybe 5 to 10% of their community actually uses. And then any analytics on how it's being used is presented in a way that emergency authorities are like, well, I don't understand this, and I can't use this, and so they don't. And so it's more of a feel-good app that, like, we've done something, we've put this out there, we can share this, but it's something that is not being utilized in a way that they're hoping. So, you know, when we think about centralizing things, I think that there's a lot of opportunity that will be coming with general AI. And I think that there's a lot of things coming that we can't yet foresee as we go into this new space.
So I thought about this question a lot. I think about my firsthand experience with our users. We have a customer care desk. People write in when they're having problems with the app. And one of the most difficult things is people don't understand the importance of signing up for local emergency alerts. And from my perspective, on the emergency app, we disseminate national alerts. We have 46 different alerts that you can customize, but we do not relay local alerts to you, right? We have that language all over the app. We talk about taking that action. We talk about making sure to check your, government alerts are enabled as well if you're in an iPod, in a community that uses iPods and wireless emergency alerts. But people are really confused. It's very, very hard for them to understand. This is particularly the case of any kind of like evacuation notices, things like that. So I remember, I think it was last year, responding to people writing into the app, talking from, I think they were writing in from Oregon, and they were like, I love your app, but you didn't warn me of this wildfire evacuation. How dare you? How dare you? What are you doing? And I sat there and I Googled his location and I said, these are the limitations of our app. The emergency app will never send you those local emergency alerts. Here, look, I found where you can go to sign up, so you'll never miss those again. Please do sign up. And the guy got back to me and he was so appreciative. He was like, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Thank you so much. And I was like, okay. And I did the same thing again and again for residents in Florida. I did the same thing again and again to people all over the place. And it's not efficient, obviously, because my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm answering customer care tickets, telling people how to sign up for the local emergency alerts, and he's like, you gotta go to bed. But California has a nice one-stop shop, right? So they have at least a landing page where you can direct people, where all the counties are there, right? So I love it when the people write in from California, because I can say, hey, go to this URL, right? Search your county, and then sign up for the Everbridge or sign up for whatever it is, right? But there's a one-stop shop, and there isn't a one-stop shop for other states, and so I'm Googling, and I'm Googling, and I'm Googling, and I hate to put in the app, Google, good luck, you have to Google this, and then you have to figure out, is this the actual real .gov? Because not all these local emergency management agencies have a .gov address. They may have a .com. They may look like a tourism website, but they're actually like a real local emergency management agency. They may not have a website at all, and they may just have a phone number. And it's just, people are really hungry for this information. They know they want to get ready, but they have too much trust in us, like in our little app. And I'm just, if you look at the app, there's all these limitations. Hey, sign up for local emergency alerts. That's one of your action items. So that thing is very important.
Oh, Zuben, I'm sorry. I was so used to it.
These were such great responses. I don't know if I have a lot to add, but I'm just curious about the audience. Raise your hand if you have like local control, if like your local county makes their own decisions on how things are getting alerted. Everybody else is pretty much like statewide. Okay. So here in Colorado, it's pretty much local control, down to even the city level, down to universities are doing their own thing, school districts are doing their thing. So when you think about these emergency alerts, they transcend lots of different types of agencies, right? So when I stepped into this space, I just assumed, oh, my WIA alerts, that's how I get everything, only to realize very few of our counties even take advantage of these WIA alerts because they have to go through the whole IPOS certification, which is hard, and then they have turnover, and I'm all about standardization, but I'm with the team here, or not, with just the panel here, in that I think it's gonna be extremely difficult. I quickly learned from Larimer County, which is definitely one of some of the sharpest people in this space here, about the layered approach that they take. It's like a sandwich, right? So they basically meet people where they are, and that is their approach, because rarely two people are going to receive alerts or prefer to receive alerts in the same way. All the way down to going knocking on doors. Hopefully we're not resorting to knocking on doors, but that is one of the layers in their layered approach. So everything from the siren systems to your iPods, you all know all of them. So thinking about that layered approach is unfortunately like how I believe it's going to have to be. I think the other piece that we're attempting to make it accessible for a user to be able to access these is by working with all these different types of partners. So no matter how they're signing up to get information in their local community, and again, Colorado might be a little different, where people are signing up to get community alerts from their rec center, from their human services, from their schools. No matter how they're signing up to get information, those emergency alerts are being driven to them. So they can opt out of receiving information from Parks and Rec and not get their emergency alerts, but if they're opted into any of these other systems, they're going to get those critical life-saving alerts. So that was our approach.
Thank you very much. So we have one more question before we open up to the audience, and it's the future. So where are hazard apps and disaster apps headed in the future, and what questions should stakeholders be asking? And we're going to start with Ginny.
So I think we're all aware that we're in a massive transition right now, where we're entering a new disaster era, we're entering a new super cycle of tech where AI is, very readily becoming the foundation of a lot of what we are using. We don't use AI, but it is quickly becoming the major foundation. And then also, we're seeing a transition of how the public and government's engagement happens online and in person. And these transitions will directly impact the needs of tech and what we can build. And if we continue to look at current tech trends and the history of tech trends, we're going to see a couple things. And I see two potential visions here, and I want to give you all that vision. One is that we continue to follow the monetization model of if it can sell, if it can get out there, whatever the feature is, get it out there. And we were pressured to do that too. All startups are. If you can make money, get it out there fast. And what we see are biases being interladen into the tech. We're seeing people cut corners because they're trying to go fast, move fast and break things. And when that happens, especially in our realm of hazard technology, people die, people get hurt. So we can't do that. And we as hazard technology creators have a higher responsibility to incorporate those ethics and standards, to not cut corners and to take out bias in every single way possible and be open and receptive to change. And that's the second vision that I want to share, is that we actually take advocacy of ethical technology and hazard technology really seriously. And providers, the questions that y'all should be asking your tech providers are things like, tell me about the ethics and what you've done to make this tech as unbiased as possible and reach our communities, like communities that have disabilities, communities with English as second languages, communities that have families and kids, right? How are we reaching them? We also need to be asking them, where and how is this data getting used outside of my county? Because that is something that I think many entities aren't aware of, is that you have an agreement with your tech provider. They may also use that data in other spaces for other revenue lines. And that's really important, that you should be aware of how that's being used. And also, if your technology provider is not consistently asking you, what do you need? How can we continue to shape this tool to your needs? That's a problem. And that's how we started. We started with our community. Tell us about what you need and how can we shape this to be what you need? And if your tech provider is not doing it, that's an issue.
So great question. We're looking at the future. We're looking at more relationships, more partnerships, getting the app in front of people, as many different people as we can, having them help us improve it. My email address is elizabeth.bubel@redcross.org. Email me. I want to talk. The second thing is simplicity. This year we've gone through just so many releases, things like that, and we're trying to get, we got away from our simplicity, but our users are asking for simplicity. And that is one of the hardest things to do, is to make something as simple and as intuitive as possible. That is a struggle, so we're trying to get that. We're looking at more languages. Everyone has a right to this information. Learning so much from you all about how to integrate more languages. We want more involvement of people with disabilities. We want more inclusive design studies with these cohorts and these communities, so we can really see where the gaps are. We want to delight this segment of the population. We are looking at ways to gamify taking preparedness actions. That's been really exciting. I got a little funding this year. We have new games in the app for tornado, hurricane, flood. They've been really popular. They're like little simple games, but they're fun. And it helps people learn, and they don't have to read, they're just taking a game. Finally, if people can't find your app in the app stores, you're the best kept secret, right? So this year we did get a little funding. I was begging my vice president to do app store optimization and paid search ads on Apple and Google. We were looking to reach users who speak Spanish. In 3 months, we were able to generate 40,000 downloads, 78% of those attributed to a Spanish-speaking audience. So we have to battle it out in the marketplace, unfortunately, because 70% of people download the app via in-app store search, right? And if we're not coming up in those lists, then they're gonna download some other app, and it's just we don't want to. None of us want to be the best kept secret. Thank you.
When thinking through this question, I was thinking the day is done where we have like an individual app for this, for weather. We have this multi-hazard apps are really where we need to be. On both the natural hazards and the anthropogenic hazards. Because we know that there are cascading and compounding hazards and issues. And I think that there needs to be a way to be able to get that information out, not just through the FEMA iPause system, but through apps like what Ginny is trying to do and others who, are using that multi-hazard interface. Also, I think very specific and tailored information to individuals and communities is on the horizon. Even for Shake Alert, there are different things that you should be doing, whether you're at home versus whether you're driving on the highway. And I know from my colleagues at the U.S. Geological Survey that they're working with departments of transportation to have messaging that says slow down if you're in a car so that it doesn't freak you out, right? And so I think very highly specific and tailored information and messaging is on the horizon. I think there's some really interesting things in the tech community. Ginny, I really appreciated what you had to say about these tech cycles and where it's going and these sorts of things, and that we do have a really big ethical responsibility when it comes to saving lives and protecting property, and that needs to be the central focus with anything that we're trying to do around alerting. We don't want secondary things to happen, like if somebody's in a car and earthquake shaking happens, for them to get into a car accident, while the shaking could have been mild, right? And so these are issues that we have to contend with from both the tech side, but also from the social science side, and we need to be really working together in those spaces so that we maximize impact and minimize harm. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Danielle. So, I spent the last 3 weeks talking to iPause and the FEMA team over there about what this next generation of iPause is going to be looking like. Not to suggest like I'm the way I'm building it, but definitely advising them on some of the things that we've been learning out in the field. Their rule book is really hard. So if we want to think about what they're after and what is the reality, maybe there's some DARPA stuff out there that I don't know about that can do some magic, but some of the rules that they were throwing out at me was that we need real-time ASL and language translation while dealing with uncooperable carriers, cellular carriers, who aren't giving up any information at all, there as little as possible, while being a non-internet based system, okay? So I see some head, right, yet being digital. Okay, so that's yeah, exactly. So when I gave them all the information I thought I could add value for, but I do think, some of the things that they're thinking about and we think about, and I know this panel holds in the highest regard, is privacy, particularly around AI. It's so cool what you can do with it, but how are they using it? Do people really ask the question? Do they wonder? Because the UI of AI makes it look so clean and easy, yet that is somebody else's data now, right? So thinking about privacy around not only the data that's going in there, but how people are getting their data mined off of their devices needs to be held in the highest regard. A couple other things, just thinking about trends that are going to be, that could be driving adoption in the future is, how easy is this thing going to be to adapt, right? So thinking about vulnerable populations, newcomer families, but just really thinking about not only the users, but the operators as well. So how easy is it for an operator to now utilize a piece of technology when they're new to the job, when they're under some of the most extreme pressure a human can possibly handle? How can they utilize this technology? So making that technology user experience as easy to use as possible, I think, is also really important. So, and I just want to compliment the panel on all of their answers, and it's an honor to be up here too. So I'll pass it back to Hamilton. Thank you.
I just want to compliment the panel on being exactly on time. We have 30 minutes for audience questions, so who would like to start?
I'm Carson with the Natural Hazard Center. This was a great panel, and I'm a little biased because I helped a little bit with some of this, but it was just so great to hear all of your perspectives, and just fascinating, so thank you all. Some of you alluded to this, but just the idea that we're amongst many people who are thinking about hazards on a daily basis, but the general public does not, right? It's not in front of them. And so there's challenges with driving people to these apps. And so I was curious to hear from you all what your thoughts are of sort of leveraging existing technology like TikTok or other places where people already are to start weaving the preparedness side or your apps that you're already developing into those spaces where people are already there. So that's my question.
I'll just start since I got the mic, but I know that everybody's going to have something to say about this. Boy, I think there's so much disinformation out there that the idea of leveraging a social media network sounds really great, but some of the information that we've gathered and that our clients have shared with us is that these are, and we know that these are marketing platforms. First, they're information networks next, right? Only as long as they're making money are they willing to provide information. So Facebook doesn't provide chronological messages. They provide the message that's going to get the most views, because that's going to drive the most ads. So I appreciate the question, Carson, because I think it's a good one, because that is where the eyeballs already are. I also know, like, Netflix, right? I mean, thinking about it's part of the iPod system is the alerts that go across your TV and radio. They're not willing to play. They don't want to play. They don't want to drive eyeballs away from their videos either. So I think there's going to be a lot of conflict with the private sector around being able to drive this information. And we as a team think a lot about, what is the benefit? What's the advantage of somebody downloading our ReachWell app? So it has to be very specific for that user to be able to find extreme benefit in getting something in a place that either makes it easy for them to get or inaccessible for them to get in other places. So those are kind of the ways we think about that.
For San Diego County, their standing operating procedure, their SOP, has when they will post on social media. So it's right next to their alerts. When will we send out an alert via SD emergency? When will we send out Facebook, TikTok, all on their pages and different things? So it's already embedded in a lot of what they do, and when they'll put those messages out, some of it is doesn't even need a manual interface. It'll just get sent through on their Facebook page or different things. Social media is not my space. You'll have to ask my colleague, Dr. Sarah McBride, but a lot of these things are automated in some regard, and it was very interesting to look at their 7-page standard operating procedure of when and why they send out those alerts. And but I was also thinking, while Zuben was talking, that I think there's a lot to be learned from our international colleagues around alerting. Specifically, I was thinking about Japan. I know we have quite a few Japanese colleagues here. And the way that they do it, like the idea of Netflix, why are we having messages across Netflix, or just interrupting a lot of these systems? I mean, Netflix knows where we're at. They really crack down on their user. I hate that. I was bumming off of my best friend about Netflix, and now I can't, and now I have to turn it on to airplane mode to watch Netflix. I mean, you know what I mean? I was trying to game the system. Definitely not here as a federal government employee. And so, I wasn't trying to game Netflix to watch Bridgerton. And so, I think there's a lot to be learned from other groups of people who do alerting a lot better than I think we've historically done in the United States.
So I'm kind of in a mixed space about using social media. One, as we're engaging, that's where you go to engage people, and it's not just about sending your emergency alerts, your preparedness information, who you are as an emergency safety provider. There's so much I'll say fear, kind of like white coat syndrome, right? You see people in uniform, they're unapproachable, oh my gosh, people get really nervous, but really, emergency professionals are people too. And the more that we can make them approachable, safe, and make people feel safer, like interacting with them. The thing is that if you are posting on social media, you have to realize that people are, like we just mentioned, fighting misinformation right alongside your posts. So, one thing that I would recommend is on your Facebook, on your TikTok, I was gonna say Twitch, I don't think anybody's knows Twitch. On many of these platforms, your profile picture should be your official seal. And you should have something within your title that is very clear that you are the official source. And I would also say if you are updating, real time, ensuring that you continue to keep that log of updates and timestamps within the post. Because just like you were mentioning, Zuben, it's not about chronological, it's about who's getting most engagement. And unfortunately, misinformation and hate speech tend to get way more engagement than emergency alerts, right? Unless though you start seeing, controversial comments and your post blow up, right? But I honestly, I think it's Pennsylvania Emergency Management. They rock at TikTok. Anybody from Pennsylvania? Yeah, well, they're awesome, and their posts are funny, and actually people are getting more involved and engaging with them. So definitely do it because that's what people are. But make sure you have that direct pathway to your website, to your official sources, beyond just trying to get likes and shares. Also, we should not hold our expectations of engagement in the same way we do for social media, right? Because when we post a post as a person, we expect all our friends and family and people to come on and like and stuff because they liked it, because they like you. People have very conflicted feelings about interacting with safety posts, right? Because, am I liking the fact that somebody got hurt in a disaster and they won't like it, right? And so we, on the other side, you're like, why is no one liking this? Is it an ineffective post? And then we start doubting ourselves. But it's just a different way that people interact with safety information on social media platforms, right? And when you are posting, be aware, people come to these platforms to brain fart, right? We go to scroll, we go to chill. It's very unlikely they're gonna see your, get prepared, here's the 12-step process, which is important and is very, very valuable, but they're probably gonna assume right past that because it's very overwhelming and I was here after work, I don't wanna do that. So, if you can, be chill, have fun.
So it's a great question. We have a wonderful social media team at the American Red Cross, and they do post information about the emergency app on our official channels, including TikTok, which they do a great job of. What they have told us is, we help them design some social media assets, and they love the app. They go through it and they find little chunks of information that people may not know, and then they highlight that in a very short post, in a visual with a short post and a very colorful image. And they tell me those get a lot of hits because people are like, it doesn't say download the emergency app as a headline. It says something like, hey, did you know that extreme heat can kill, but you can take action to help yourself and your family? So those kind of things. The other thing we are looking at is we have a wonderful team of volunteers, youth volunteers, that want to get involved in climate action. They want to prepare their networks for disasters as a way of doing that. We're just starting to look at, potentially having them through Red Cross youth clubs, helping people download the app, be like an emergency app youth ambassador. And the first thing they asked me is, I want to do it on TikTok, and I was like, oh, I was thinking about like a youth club meeting in the cafeteria or something, but these are things we're grappling with now is how much that, how much do we encourage youth in these spaces to be on their own, because sometimes they're not so friendly. But yeah, great question.
Bell's thread game on threads. We follow, we chat all the time and comment each other on Red Cross. Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, we're friends.
Oh, it works. Awesome. First of all, I want to say I love all your apps. And there's going to be a but in there, you know that. But and they're all really valuable, and it's nice to see there's a development in that field because they haven't been. So I have a mile-long list of suggestions, and I'm going to spare everybody from it. I just have two critical things. One of them is, if people can't understand your app, they're not going to use it. And you all support English, great, there's a lot of English speakers in the United States. Then you have Spanish, and then maybe some of the other big 5 languages. There's a little more languages than that in the United States. And if you look at commercial apps, like Evernote is a great example. It's translated into 6 million languages because it's all community-based. And the communities are interested. So the organization I'm from deals with my Pacific Island NHPI, in particular Micronesians. So we do a lot of work out there too. OpenStreetMap is the only map application that works there because it's the only application where the community can update language, names, buildings, all that stuff. And I would suggest, I'll get to my question in a second, I'm sorry. But I would suggest you look at something like Evernote's model for translating because it really, really works and it brings a lot of ownership back to the community itself. That being said, I have a technical question, and it comes to the fact that we are at the natural hazards thing. My background is I've been 35 years developing database and systems. I have a master's in computer engineering, followed by a master's in cryptology. And the unicorn you're talking about actually exists. The tools are out there to do everything they're asking for. My biggest concern with all your apps is they're all 100% dependent on the internet, whether you think it or not. Because if I download the app, I'm working for a nonprofit. I've already downloaded all your apps just here by looking at your signs in front of you. Everybody in my community, apart from a few people, is gonna want that app once disaster already happened. Which means it doesn't matter how much, it matters a little bit how much we advertise for the apps before, but if I'm going that direction and another community member is going that direction and there's an app that tells them how to do CPR or any kind of CAL certification or whatever you have, and I can't give the person that app without a cell phone tower, it doesn't work. So I would encourage you all to look exactly at, I just want to, actually I want to hear if you have any thoughts in that direction. How do we transfer app device to device? And a follow-up to that is, you talk about resources. Go here for resources, go here for resources, which is great. If I don't have a road, and I don't have a street address anymore, we're out of Portland, so if we get an earthquake, there's no roads left. In the islands, they're very dependent on what 3 words. I don't know if you know it, but it's an app that gives you 3 words that gives you within 1 meter the exact location of where you are. It's easy to remember your home address. It's in certain of the islands, the postal system now offers. So you can send it to this name at those 3 words at that country, and it will end up at the right person. So that's something to look at too. But I'm mostly interested in how are you gonna solve being internet enabled and then hitting a disaster and then people want your app.
Do you want to take it first?
Okay. I love that you asked this question because you're right. We can't just be a digital, like an internet-based digital sphere. So one thing that we've done, every single one of our hazard guides is also translated into a PDF. And you can download that, print that out, and it's an analog resource. We're also working on a feature exactly what you talked about, where it's quick share. If we're in an offline situation, how can I share this file into another device? And in the works. But I wanted to actually ask you again, when you were mentioning that community-based translation, I love that idea. What was the company that you mentioned that does that, or the organization that does that with communities?
It's not an organization that does it, it's Evernote, it's my note-taking thing.
Oh.
And Evernote is available in, I think it's 128 languages or something. I know that because I helped making the Danish model because I'm Danish.
Gotcha.
And it's a separate area, you sign up for it, and they have all your different resource lines in your app. And then you just translate it, and it's sort of like Wikipedia. It's a guided thing where people can, tell each other, no, that's not the right way to translate this specific sentence and so on. And then that builds a library, and when they have enough to launch the app, they will, even if some of it might still come out in English if they're missing the last 5% or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really effective model, so.
I definitely check it out, because there's a lot of contention on, should we be using AI to translate? Because there's a lot of, opportunity for it to go wrong, right? And here's the reality of it. If you don't offer a translation, a person who receives that information is probably gonna go to Google or another translation app and use it themselves. So, by having anything on there, even if it's like what we've done, we're a very small startup and translation is incredibly expensive, so I'm very excited about this. But what we've done is we have used one of the top tier, AI translation models from Microsoft, but then had that rated and checked by native speakers, which is much more cost effective. And the rule was it has to be correct, so it can't be in incorrect language, which I think someone mentioned. We have all of our content between a 3rd and 8th grade reading level, which makes it much easier for the translation model. And it's okay if it's a teeny bit awkward, because most people can still make that leap of logic, even in under duress. It's not a perfect model, but something is better than nothing, as long as that can still be safe. And so it's a fine line, and I will admit that. But if we can save that moment of, okay, I have this information, now I have to go and try to Google or find the translation app, which also requires internet, we'd want to have even awkward translated stuff available on HazAdapt. So great question.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. It's always top of my mind because we do see disasters where connectivity is offline for a long time. And if we can get people to download the emergency app, it's great. Even though when they're offline, they have access to the preparedness content and what to do before, during, after, but they don't have access to that live API that shows shelters or live services available near them. They don't have access to weather alerts that they may need. We do, put a banner up that says, like, you don't have mobile connectivity. This is not the latest information, but it is a huge worry. My colleague Monica Owens-Doyle is here. She manages our home fire campaign, which is a nationwide program to go in door to door and help people prepare for disasters by installing smoke alarms and then walking through an additional hazard and some things that they can do that is like literally at the doorstep, right? So walking people through how to prepare for if they're in a hurricane area after they install a smoke alarm. They'll walk through some hurricane preparedness with them. They'll validate some things with the community, but I can't do it alone. And mobile connectivity is terrible in the United States. We have dead zones that you think, oh my gosh, I have to drive to the gas station, and I'm in a very, very built-up area in Kentucky, and I still have to, everyone's driving to the gas station to be able to get mobile connectivity so that they can keep in touch with their family and things like that on a day-to-day basis, not even during a disaster. It's something that I'm constantly, just struggling with. So I really appreciate the question, and I wrote down some ideas that you had, and I'd love to connect with you after the meeting. Thank you.
Just have a quick anecdote. I'm the disasters person within the new directorate, but a colleague of mine is the communications person, the advanced comms, and I asked him, I was like, what happens when communications are down and all these things and you're in a disaster situation, you don't have 5G just available to you. And he was telling me about advances in communications, about the uses of drones in these types of situations that can be deployed to help bounce off the cell signal and strengthen it in a particular area. Didn't know about that, so I thought maybe I would share it with this community because I didn't know. I think it's just do we have the capacity to be able to use these types of tech moving forward? I'm not one of those people that see tech as this panacea, especially during disasters when there might not be access to power, comms, water, all sorts of things. But I think it's really important, and I just wanted to share that because I thought that was just a really cool anecdote.
Thanks. Drones, the answer for everything.
AI.
AI drones. Well,
There we go, we sold everything.
yeah, I think the FEMA guys would love to talk to you if you understand how to communicate digitally without internet connection. I mean, we talked about GPS, exploring some opportunities there, but I can speak a little bit more to like the language translation piece. We do use AI level translation, and we are really forthcoming about it because it is AI translation. So, but the way we've gone about it, we feel, and our clients feel really confident in it because we send it through rigorous testing. We take months and months and months of data and push it through our translation engine, have humans review it, and then provide us with the feedback on it so we can feed it back into our library, similar to how Evernote might be doing it. You know, the library is what I believe to be the best answer at the time for AI level translations, so that way you can accommodate local nuances in vocabularies as well as proper nouns and locations, so that way when those future messages do come through, leveraging that translation too. And then they will occasionally use that information for like templates, but we know templates have their own whole slew of challenges built around them because never is a template ever seems to be sufficient, right? When you put a template in front of an operator, they're gonna want to change it, as we heard earlier today too. So, yeah, so I think that's kind of the process that we take our clients through to give them the confidence of the AI. And then again, in terms of having community-fed corrections to a translation engine, I don't think emergency notifications is the best place for that. Not knowing who in the community is making those recommendations, that would definitely have to go through a filter. So, but we do love the idea of having the community feed that information back to dispatch, so then they can relay it back into the library. Yeah, I do love that. Thank you.
I'm just curious, do y'all's apps work offline as well?
Parts of our app work offline, but it's a messaging app, so it's only gonna work if you're connected to something that can relay a message, so.
We work offline.
I think we have another seat up here on our panel for
All right, we probably have time for one more question.
Thank you so much. It was very informative. I have a question from the perspective of emergency management. So I'm a local emergency manager. We have challenges to advertise the application for the public. I'm so interested to know how do you advertise your application for the public? Because normally the percentage of users of the applications when it's out there is low, it's not high. And when the public did not see the benefits of using it, and it's a dry topic like emergency alert, hazard, they're not going to use it. And going through all the resources during an emergency is not our priority. We need to take an action. We need the public to take an action. So this is my questions, and I want to know how do you advertise your own application, and also how many do you have in like percentage of using your application for a specific location? Like for example, if your application using in a community with like 1 million population, how much percentage of that specific like population using your application?
I'll try to take that one. So we don't advertise our application. We have our clients advertise our application for us, and I think we all kind of come to the App Store space from different perspectives here. So when our clients, whether it be a nonprofit or a school or a workforce development center, is promoting the application, they're using it as a way to connect their community with their information, and then therefore the emergency alerts are getting driven to those community members. So we're leveraging the community partners and to use ReachWell, but then we also have our model through our launch program that grabs the support of promotora networks, community navigators, then have them, faith-based organizations, and we've got our list of of community partners that we work through to promote the application out to their communities. And we've had a lot of success with that. So it is, I mean, some of it's strategic. Sometimes it's just understanding in every specific community where those pivot points are in that community. Who are those influencers in your local community that are connected to, again, we're focusing on disadvantaged, kind of vulnerable populations, migrant and lower income. So where are those influencers, that are those trusted messengers in that community? And it's gonna vary community by community. It's not gonna be the same type of person even. It's really local knowledge. So that's where those community partnerships are so valuable. In terms of, you asked another question about like, how do you know how many subscribers you have in any specific area? Again, we're looking at how many subscribers we have per community partner and what areas of the county those community partners serve. So that's how we're able to share that information, because again, we're not tracking location on devices. That would be able to tell us that.
Yeah, from a county perspective, I mean, the app that I'm working with is directly driven by the county emergency management in San Diego. I mean, they hold all of the access to it. Unlike Zuben, they do actually see quite a bit of location information, so there's quite a bit of security screens that you have to go through to say like, accept, yeah, it's okay to use my location, yeah, it's okay to do this. And they do that just to be ethical and upfront that yes, we are using your location to send you alert information for your specific locale. One thing that they've been trying to pilot and have as of yet been unsuccessful is silent alerting, so pinging the phone silently to see where people are located. It's just that they have partnered with Peraton, who's the third-party IT provider, and they've had some hiccups in that relationship. So of getting this silent alerting to be able to work, because they do want to see where are we pinging, who are we hitting, who has it location-wise. My colleague Mike Brzezinski at the Miami University of Ohio and I have been working on the research side. We also have surveys out in 6 different languages, Tagalog, Vietnamese, Chinese, and gosh, there's a lot. But it's also because there's the overlap with the logos and different things that we have from the Shape Alert Earthquake Early Warning System. But again, it's completely driven by the emergency management county groups who are working on that and trying to get the information out. So they advertise through their local county news. They also have a website that's a county news source. And because San Diego, unfortunately, has so many hazards, they get quite a few pings, unfortunately, from the app and from different sources. But I will say we haven't seen that over alerting is actually a problem. And just to plug, I'm giving a talk on Wednesday afternoon at the researchers meeting that'll discuss a lot more of this, so thanks.
So we've learned a lot in this last 10 months. We started a new program that we work directly with emergency authorities to boost their local safety information. And I'm a millennial, so of course I always wanted to start out on social media and advertise that. We just weren't seeing the traction that we would have hoped. And what we've learned is actually when people again on social media, they're there to decompress, they're there to chill. But when we can actually engage them in the physical through posters, stickers, and other things in, it sounds crazy, but intimate moments, much higher adoption. So let me tell you a couple examples of how we did that. One, bathroom stickers. And it's gotta be a little bit of bathroom humor, but it leads them into your app. They're sitting there or they're doing their business, and when they see your app. So you have an audience there. The other one that was really impactful is we actually worked directly with an apartment complex and said, hey, can you send out, in your monthly newsletter, a little advert with a QR code? QR codes are king. Get people, to see your poster, see your advert, whatever it is, but have a QR code for immediate scanning that takes them straight to the app and lets them download it. That's been really successful. When we did the very first test that we just did this last month of working with the apartment complex, we got 500 downloads in a week just from that one apartment complex. And we're able to kind of see location because in order to use prep checks, you have to give us your zip code so that we can connect to local services. So we do track that, we also track location, but we are very forthcoming with here's exactly how we track your location, here's how we do what information we collect, what we don't collect. We don't collect personal information otherwise. So we have a lot of opportunity to kind of bridge that physical awareness, because when we think of hazards, we definitely usually think it's in the real world versus online. And so if you can think, creatively in the space of, all right, how are we getting people to scan this QR code in intimate moments? And actually that bathroom thing is backed by Georgetown researchers, remember, that they saw a higher success of adoption if you can get bathroom humor and bathroom efforts in there. Interesting, right? So it's cool.
Elizabeth, I think we're out of time, so maybe we could have a one-on-one after.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
All right, so we all heard Lori Peak said there's an open bar. I don't want to cause a riot by keeping you all after 5 o'clock, but I do want to give a hand to our panelists. Thank you very much. So yeah, we'll hang out a little bit if you want to come up and ask questions. Thank you very much.